Good evening, friends, and welcome to this webinar on strategic sourcing. Some of you might be thinking, why strategic sourcing? We all know procurement around. What is the difference between procurement and strategic sourcing? It's a competitive word you all know very well. All the time you're getting a pressure to cut down the cost, to improve the delivery, to improve the quality. So when it comes to those stresses and the pressure on you, the best tool which is available today is strategic sourcing. Now, the strategic sourcing, the way you can see around, the term is strategic and sourcing. Strategic means we are looking at the long-term thinking. It's not a short-term, it's not a reactive. Other term is sourcing. Some of you might be thinking why we are not calling strategic procurement. Now, the term sourcing and procurement, see, when I started my career, procurement was a one big thing. Because those days the procurement used to be purely reactive. You make a request, I buy it, I find the supplier, I place an order. But now the things have changed. Now the two terms have come around. One is sourcing, other is called purchasing or buying, whatever you may call it. So both are part of the bigger part of procurement, or you may call part of supply chain management. Sourcing and purchasing are the two sides of the coin. In the sourcing, we are trying to do long-term identification of suppliers, making relationship with the suppliers, making contract with the suppliers, and purchasing is the one trying to comply with those. So whenever I get a request for those items, the sourcing team has already identified the suppliers, they made the long-term arrangements, I place an order. I hope this makes very clear to you. The one term is strategic, other one I'm calling as sourcing. Friends, let's see the agenda what we have today. Obviously understanding the strategic sourcing, understand the value of strategic sourcing. What is this animal around? Does it add any values? And the next is the key elements of strategic sourcing. The key element is, I would say, to start with the data collection. Spend data. I'm not talking of other data, I'm talking of the spend data. You need to find your spend on what categories. If you've got many portfolios of categories, you want to find your spend on different categories, where to focus on. Or if you've got only one category, there's no categorizations, you've got all diverse items. So you need to do the data collection and analysis. That's what I basically mean was spend analysis. Then you're trying to find this supply market. You know where I'm spending my money, which are the low-hanging fruits, where I can really implement strategic sourcing. The next is to understand the supply market. First thing, you might have many suppliers, but if new suppliers have come up around within the nations, within the regions, globally, they may have a better technologies, you may like to try them out. Sometimes people ask question, Krishan, we have got already so many suppliers, do I really need to do this? The question is very valid. So you need to do the supply market analysis. And once I do the supply market analysis, the next come what strategy I'm going to follow. If I would be in the government, strategy is only one: competition. Even in the private sector, sometimes people feel, oh, they think competition is the best solution. It may not be true. So there are different sourcing strategies around. So those sourcing strategies we need to work on, and we'll walk through them. So based on the sourcing strategies, we try to come up with the vendor selections. You say, guys, for these items, here are the best vendors, best priced, low risk, and my supply chain continuity is ensured, quality is better, technology is better, it adds value to my end product. You do the vendor selection. Then after you've done the vendor selection, You want to say, guys, okay, let's enter into the contract. But then you want to manage the performance as well. But after managing the performance, you may have to develop the supplier as well. Supplier management around. Some cases you may have to develop. In some cases where the performance is damn poor, you'll say, guys, bye-bye. That's the exit part. But when we talk of SS, the biggest challenge which we see around, because this is still a new subject in India, I did my first exercise on SS when I was with the United Nations in 92, 93. But that time strategic sourcing, the really when I look at today's terminology wise, was more of a tactical sourcing. So when I did in 92, 93, it was pooling up, aggregating the requirements. We had so many country offices, each one was buying computer, each one was buying vehicles. Our volume of buying of vehicles was around $100 million. Instead of each one buying, we were aggregating them. So in short, the strategic sourcing was, to a lot extent, if I had to put the right terminology, it was a tactical sourcing. Friends, again, based on this agenda, what we are trying to do is, where did it come from, the whole story part of it. It's good to know the historical part, but then you really know the purpose, the meaning, and why it was started. What has it accomplished, and where it is going. Now, when I said the very first, where did it come from, most of the question when you see those who are doing certifications part, they only read the books without knowing the logic behind it. If you really know the logic, how SSS started, what was the purpose behind it, I think you are able to answer the various questions in the exam much better, I would say. So let me go back again to the overview. This term strategic sourcing has been referred quite often over the last few years. In India, I can say in the last 5 or 6 years, while in the Western countries has been for the last 10 to 15 years. As I said to you, I started in 92, 93, these activities around. And that's the time I started building the coding system, UNSPSC. It sounds impressive, gives a cutting edge and potentially transformation process. And how does it compare to the other sourcing? We had sourcing earlier. Even if I go 40 years back or 30 years back, sourcing was there. But the word strategic sourcing, how does it differentiate from that part around? Next comes the strategic sourcing is absolutely critical for any business. I would put it this way. And you have to keep in mind, strategic sourcing you can't do in a standalone. It has to be aligned with the business objectives and vision. So that part is very, very critical around. Now, the question which you might be asking, why this strategic sourcing? I think this gives you a wonderful answer for that. If it goes to 1990s in the beginning, the whole thing was price, price, price. Slowly we moved into the direction, guys, I might be getting a good price in X country, but when I get the goods delivered to my country, the total cost goes up. The concept of cost management came around. Is it the reasonable price? So the word reasonable came around. The total cost of ownership came around. So when the TCO came, the TCO was built into the modules around, and then came the concept of strategic sourcing. So strategic sourcing is a long term. It's basically sourcing modalities. And sourcing modalities again based on TCO philosophy. So the TCO became the benchmark for this. So strategic sourcing is third level of maturity you can see. Now from strategic sourcing, when people found is doing wonderfully well, the next maturity model was category management. I know in India very few companies are doing, particularly the retail or health sectors, they're doing into the category management. But others are still bundling up all as one. They don't have categorization. So category management becomes the next maturity model after strategic sourcing. And what we are looking around in the few years to come, the category management will again mature into the next one called value management. So in short, we are moving from price focus to value focus. So it is not the price as a criteria around, it is a value as a focus around. So this is how you see the chain around. Now when we talk of strategic sourcing, the key definition, if you have to look around, three components. Keep in mind, is organized. It's a part of an ongoing activities. It's not just a destination. It's a journey. Even if you're done strategic sourcing, you've signed an agreement with the supplier, you're looking at the performance, and after 1 year we feel the supplier is not doing a good job. You want them to get exit out. So in short, this is organized. It is an ongoing process. Or in short, as I said to you, is a journey, not a destination. It is a systematic. That means the company has agreed upon process of pursuing strategic sourcing. There are guidelines for that. And the third, very important around, is collaborative. When I say collaborative, it is not standalone function of procurement. If I'm in charge of the strategic sourcing, it's a cross-functional thing. That means I have to involve people from design, from productions, or from the customer side. So, summarize, I would put it this way: organized, systematic, and collaborate. So keep these three things in mind. When we say world-class procurement, this gives you broad ideas around what are key important things around. You will see one yellow on strategic sourcing. So if you want to be a world-class, I think this should be part of your activities within the organization. There are other issues as well. I'm just trying to focus on you is strategic sourcing is one key element to make your procurement activity as a world class. Now, sometimes people come the category management, strategic sourcing. So I'm using SS and CM. The process-wise they are same, no differences. But trying to make the difference is the time horizon is different. In strategic sourcing, the time horizon could be 1 year, 2 years. In the case of category management, could be still longer. And the next one comes the scope part. The scope part is it's a single category we're looking around, while in the case other ones we are looking at the portfolio of categories around. Objective, as I said to you, strategic sourcing we are looking as TCO, TCO, TCO. While in the case of category management, we look at the values part. I might be paying more, but the product which I'm getting from the supplier adds extra features to my end product. So in the process, my sales goes up. So the value is very important around. So this gives you a broad framework, what makes the difference. The processes are same. So some may call 7 steps, some may call 6 steps, some may call even 8 steps around. The 8th step which I'm talking around is putting the specification also built into the chain. That means you are part of developing. If a new product is being developed by the designers, you're not taking it for granted. You are also part of reviewing the specification and getting right input from the suppliers so the specs are very clear. So that becomes the 8th step. Anyway, my focus in this would be the 7 steps around. So value management, as I said to you in the very beginning, is the last chain of the whole activities around. So keep in mind in next 4 or 5 years, I know most of you are very young, this is going to be the focus. So the end state which I look around up to 2020, in India it may be a little later, will be the value management. Now let's go historically, how SS came from. I mean 80s, I've seen those days when the focus was all on business, BPR, BPR, BPR. Business process re-engineering. Very common. And those particularly for manufacturing, this was very common terminology to become cost effective, to become efficient. And later on when we saw around, Procurement has become the big chunk of our business. You might be in service industry, you might be in manufacturing. So when I go back 30 years back, they were very small. But today they are covering up to 70, 80%. In some company, maybe more. If I look at Apple and this is full, 100%. So when they're looking around, except the salary cost and service cost, that means 80% is the component is a contracting component. So if 80% is a contracting component, 20% is my salaries of other people and value addition and margins. So procurement is becoming a very crucial element. This is why the term procurement in some companies has transformed, has evolved. It's become supply management. And time is not far, this will become supply chain management. So 7 steps were developed in those days. And I'm trying to keep those 7 steps. I know some people have merged few things around, come with 6 steps, 5 steps. I'll take the original 7 steps in my discussions around. Now, worked well in most of the companies. In some companies, they thought, guys, what are you teaching us about strategic sourcing? We want competition, end of the game. For them, the mindset was competition is best than collaboration. As in the public sectors, they want to keep the supplier at distance. No negotiation. So the only focus was competition, competition. Here we'll discuss different approaches for different things. Rigor in conducting the process. So you need due diligence. And then come the tools and technologies. So tools and technology are very important around. We are doing a project with one of the companies. We know very well without the right tools, you can't find the right spend around. So overview, the way I said in the beginning, is a very reactive sourcing, which was in the good old days, very beginning when strategic sourcing was not there. Then came the tactical one, which I told you in 1992 when I did on this work. It was tactical. Some governments are using this tactical. They make a framework agreements. They call off agreements. They sign this. This is nothing but more aggregation of requirements. I've got 20 offices around. I aggregate the requirements, common user items. I become tactical sourcing. So then everybody in those offices has to fall on those, use those, has to comply with those contracts. When we talk of strategic, which came in 90s, and purchasing also, when the strategic sourcing came, procurement also became supply management. The buying activity became sourcing. So there are 2 components around sourcing and buying. I would put it this way. Now, here, this is what I'm trying to show you. So procurement, when we look around, or if I call supply management, sourcing is one arm, buying is another arm. The third arm is vendor management. So sourcing is the one we call as money on the table. So you do some long-term arrangements. You show them that, guys, okay, this is our requirement for the whole year or for the next 2 years. If you do a good job, we can assure you business for next 2 years. So in the process, you get the best deals. But the game starts from analyzing spend. Then managing the contract, quality suppliers, define sourcing strategies, all are becoming part of sourcing. And that's what we call the money on the table. The reason is, if buying people are not using the same suppliers, the money on the table remains on the table only. So if you want money in the bank, the buying people have to ensure, I would put it as a part of audit even, if they follow the sourcing with whom we have made the long-term arrangement. If they're not doing it, there should be reason for that. There should be question for that. This is why we said money on the table versus money on the bank. Here again, it explains you a few things. So strategic sourcing is this component, and then based on strategic sourcing, obviously the game starts from demand, then strategic sourcing, and then transaction execution. So transaction execution is the one we call P2P. So procurement, procure to pay, while strategic sourcing and the whole end-to-end, if I look around, it becomes sourcing to pay, S to P. Again, the third component we said about the strategic sourcing was cross-functional team. Today we have silos. The concerned engineer, the concerned customer, the material officers, they make a request to the procurement guy, buy this 30 computers around, buy 500 tables around, buy 2 vehicles around. They find the supplier, place the order, material officers receives it. But now what we're trying to do is they're working together as a cross function. I'm coming with a new product, engineer tells me these are the specification. End users tell me this is good or bad. So we work as a team. So it's a cross-functional team. So strategic sourcing is a very collaborative process and systematic process as we discussed, but we use the concept of TCO. Objectives obviously are to reduce the cost of the goods, capture resulting savings, create contractual alliances with supplier to support the long-term goals, improve the qualities, improve business functions because my supply chain is not disturbed. If my relationships are long-term, I can be assured of deliveries. Even if my demand might be going up and down, I can assure the delivery and I can assure no disruption in the supply chain. But if I know I'm doing one-time relationship, supplier next time is get busy with something else, they may not deliver it. And optimize this procurement process itself. So these are the 7 steps. I think we'll try to walk through it. First thing is conduct internal research. Before you go for it, it's a very costly process. Don't think strategic sourcing is easier. It needs a lot of resources. So before you ask for the resources, you have to do your homework, conduct the internal research, which is based on the spend. So the spend is the ground for that where to start. So once you're done internal research, then you say, guys, let me assess the supply market. If there is no other supplier available, why should I waste my time? But if I have the tons of suppliers in India and abroad or anywhere else, because today's world you can import from anywhere, assess the supply market. Then once you've done the assessment part, then you're also looked around some cost figures. The next dimension comes, guys, okay, now we got for this item, let's say I'm an automobile company, I'm buying filters, I'm buying tires, I'm buying seats. I know I'm buying from only 4 companies are there, but there are 20 more companies around and they have got better features. Then I try to collect supplier information. For each and every supplier, I try to collect the information in terms of quality, in terms of technology, in terms of pricing, in terms of cost structures, in terms of logistic cost also, in terms of inventory also. If it's very far off going to be the supplier, my inventory level will go up. I can't follow just in time. So those factors will have to be built in. The next, once you've done complete data, the next comes sourcing strategy. So sourcing strategy will be using the KRALJIC model, which came in 1983. So what sourcing strategy I'm going to follow? Is it a critical item? Is it a routine item? Is it a bottleneck item? And you can also say in case you're doing for category, you'll say is it a routine category items or is it a bottleneck category? You could do many ways around. So you develop the sourcing strategy. So once you've done the strategy, okay, I want to do, in this case, I want to keep competition on. But in this case, my risks are bigger. I want to build a relationship. In this case, I want to have an e-catalog. So depending on the situations, we do solicit the offers and we try to develop them and negotiate with them and select the supplier. So after soliciting process, we go for the negotiation. And last is implementing and managing the supply base. So giving a relationship is one thing, but managing it. Now the feedback loop, as I said to you, it is not a one line. That, okay, here is my destination. The moment I reach to step 7, it's not my destination. After step 7, it loops back. That means I find measure and report, capture the learning, and ensure compliance. But behind the success of this one is key change leadership. When you talk of strategic sourcing, we're talking about change. And you know very well, change in any organization is not easy. So when we talk of a change leadership, that means a project like this has to come from top down. So it should have vision, should have strategies. You need to enroll the stakeholders. You need to do a lot of communications. You need to measure the performance because the change has to come from the people who are affected. You can't put on them, guys, from tomorrow onward, this is the methodology to use. They have to feel motivated to go for it. They should say, guys, this is a great tool. We all want to go for it. So once they all agree, I think this will have a better results. Otherwise, results could be not 100%, could be 70%, could be 60%. So sometimes we put so much resources. If results are not commensurate with the expectation, then you feel bad, guys, this is not going well. Very first, assessing the opportunity. So very first I conduct the internal research. The research I'm doing is just trying to see, is it worth for me to go for it? I have to make a proposal to my top management. They'll say, guys, okay, how much money is it going to cost you? Okay, it's going to cost me $2 million, $1 million, or $300,000. Fine. But next question comes, what the company is going to gain out of it. So you have to do the homework. So you have to develop first the team part. You can't do alone. It's the team charter has to be there. Identify the stakeholders, who are the people who are going to be affected. Spend analysis, action-wise. And then spend again runs on categorization. These are the food items, these are the health items, these are the oil and petrol, or these are MRO items. So you need to define around what categorization they belong to. Then I stratify them. I do the strategization. And then communicate the team. Guys, okay, this is the scope of the team now. So this is where we need to work on. Now, areas of analysis is obviously we're trying to look expenditure categorized by commodity and sub-commodity. Expenditure by divisions. In the past might be that each division has got a lot of freedom to do what they want. Each department can place an order. Procurement is too much decentralized. But now we want to collect the data as a whole. The MNC may have 40 units in the worldwide. Each might be doing in a very decentralized way. Or even within the country, each department may have decentralizations. We need to collect the complete data. Then we are able to find whether it's worth it or not. Expenditure by supplier. And then we also have to keep in mind what is the future demand going to happen. If that project is going to be closed soon, the project as a particular product has reached the life cycle, end of the life cycle, obviously you don't want to waste time on that. So you want to take those products which are going to stay with you for next 5 years, 6 years around. So in short, what I'm trying to say is try to identify the quick hits. Don't take item to start with or category to start with, which is difficult, which is very complex. And then you find the results are not so good. So you have to find wonderful items, start with that, give a right impression, right feeling to the people. Strategic sourcing is worth for them. Categorization is very critical. To me, the categorization is a language of procurement. Just giving a number has no meaning. So you need to categorize them. The number should be unique. And that number should tell you that this item belongs to health group. This item belongs to professional services. This services belong to professional services. Again, within professional services, it belongs to legal services. It belongs to audit services. I should be able to categorize them. Otherwise, I'm not able to find my spend. I know the spend, but the spend is under what heading? Under what category? So those are very important around. And this is the where I remember my days when I started working on it, categorization. We started this project in 88 and we found there's no categorizations, just paper, pen, supplies. Now we wanted to bundle them under one category, which are office supplies, which are furniture. So we tried to bundle them up. As a common person, we know it. But in our language, it was computerization that started in those days, 86, 87. So we were looking at how do we categorize them. So we came with the concept of UNSPSC. Many of you who are using ERP, whether SAP, Oracle, they use this as a standard. United Nations Standard Product Service Classification. This has got 5 levels around. Each level has got 2 characters. When we built it in the beginning, we had 6 levels and each level was only 1 character from 0 to 9. Then later on we found we are not able to cover maximum permutation combination wise. Then we came with the 2 characters. So this shows you the first 2 letters are segments. Next 2 are families. Next 2 are class, commodity, business function. Are you a retail business? Are you a wholesale business? Are you a manufacturer? So that comes around. So it gives you a very small example around if the number is 44121903. It's a pen refill. But if I had to go to the category, I could put down under the 44, then followed by 000s, office equipment accessories. So if I want to find how much money my office is spending on office equipment accessory supplies, only to the computers I have to give instruction, give me the spend on 44 followed by 0000s. But if I want to find how much is money I'm spending on office supplies, I will take 4412 followed by zeros. So like this categorization helps you to go at different levels around. You can do it at a commodity level, you can do it at a class level, you can do it at a family level, and you can do it at the top category level. So diagnosis, I'm just skipping it, keeping in mind the timing, but spend analysis, I think you all know. Spend, again, the cube part. So you're looking at the category as a 1 dimensions, supplier as another dimensions, organizations. I may have 20 organizations. So if I can pull one part of the cube, I can find the detailed outputs around. I can join them all together and then come out. If I look as a comprehensive expenditure wise, I can do this. I can also do department wise. I can also do by organization wise. So the step 1 was all about spend, spend, spend. Following the money. Next comes market assessment. So when we talk of market assessment, are there other suppliers? If there's no other suppliers, so this exercise may not be relevant for them, for that particular product, of a particular category. Let's say I'm making electronic items. I'm buying, let's say, a speaker, and there's only one company who makes a speaker. I'm just assuming it. Then I will not like to go through it. But if I find there are other suppliers who have come up around, other sources have come around, this is my job. That means doing the market understanding, doing complete due diligence, and also looking at the should cost informations from the major company, the key products around. So I'll try to see, is it really worth it doing all this? The next comes the market analysis. So in the first step, I did the spend part. I identified which are my low-hanging fruits. Step 2, I tried to find who else are there in the market who can do this job for me. But then the third part comes up around is analyzing those companies. My existing company, incumbent company, and those which are going to be future I feel is good. Which one is giving a better technology? Which can deliver better? Which can give the best pricing? Which one is going to be where my inventory level will be low? It's a trade-off many things. So you have to look around the trade-off. You have to do the total cost of ownership. There could be implication. The total cost of ownership of one item may be less if I'm getting from abroad, but my inventory cost is going up. So you have to look at the total pictures and collect the detailed informations. You could call this as a market research actually. So this is where the market survey comes around. You're trying to look at the trends, you're looking at the preferences. You've been buying some item, but those items have become obsolete technologically. You have a wonderful relation with the supplier, but nobody wants to buy your end product. You have to see again the customer trends also. So that input is also required for you before you come up with new ideas on the service side. So when we do the analysis part, look at the capability. You have a wonderful supplier, but can't deliver more than what you need today. But if you are growing at the rate of 30%, 20% every year, and you want to double your production this year, certainly you're going to look around the existing suppliers, can they cope up? If they can't cope up does not mean only in quantity form, in terms of quality, in terms of delivery. I'm looking at the capability as a whole. Then the capacity part, that's the number part, quality and performance, financial health. Is company sound? When you signed the agreement 3 years back, the company was financially great, but today they are becoming closer to bankruptcy. In those situations, do you really want to carry on the relationship? Or over the last 3 years, they have gone into too many legal disputes. Motivated and creative, are they creative people? Are they motivated team with whom you're working? And ease of doing business. If they're very complex people, very bureaucratics, then you say, guys, sorry, we can't work on. You are very digital in the modern way, and those people are very bureaucratic. The moment you make a request, it takes them 10 days before they can start processing. You would say, guys, then we don't fit together. So culturally, you have to match. This factor is very, very important to understand. I know this is taught to everybody who does MBA and marketing as a major, but I think for the supply chain people also is very important around to use this 4 to 5 forces. So when you're looking for new supply sources, you have to see, guys, what are the internal competition? Is the competition growing? Is new companies coming around in the market? Pressure from substitute, I mean somebody has come up with the new substitutes around. You were using X material, the Y has come up with the new Z material. And that material may be better than yours. Who's the powerful? Is the buyer powerful or the supplier is powerful? In the sense that means today your business from that supplier is a very small iota, 2% of their business. You're not powerful. Supplier is powerful. But if you are, the supplier is depending 80% on you, then naturally you have the buying power. So you really need to look around. You might have a good supplier with you, but you are a very small part of their business. They can leave you anytime. So you possibly will try to find some other backstopping also. So keep this in mind when you're doing the complete supplier analysis around. You have to keep in mind the trends also. You are getting a wonderful pricing. But if the prices have gone down, look at the oil and petroleum products. In the last 4 years, 3 years, the prices have gone down. And if you're buying some plastic item at the same rate what you were paying 2 years back, then situation is no. Because the prices have gone down. The margins are also shrinking. Competition has increased. The margins of 5%, 10% looks to be very great. Cost structure, supply demand, all these factors are going to be which drives the market around. You have to look at it when you do the complete analysis. The brand value of the category. If you're buying X item from X company, and if their brand is wonderfully well known, it improves your brand also. So keep in mind the brand value. The price may be more, but there's a brand behind it. So when you say my product includes product made from so and so, it adds a value. Issues, quality issues, but you should also keep in mind the political risk, currency risk. If you feel you have been importing from X country, politically we are going into problems. You have to keep in mind that should not become an overnight problem for you. You need to oversee. Similarly, the risk could happen around the currency. If your currency is becoming weaker and the other one's currency is becoming stronger, you have to pay more in terms of your local payments. So keep this factor in mind. But when we are doing this costing analytic, the focus should be not on, it should be basically on the price, the cost, the total cost, not the perceived price, not the acquisition price. So there are other demand drivers which has to be built into this around. So in short, it comes up. So when you've done the supply analysis around, it helps you to understand what to buy, how much to buy, where to buy, and when and how to buy. Suppose you are buying within the country, maybe the cycle time is less, you could keep different. But if you're importing from abroad, assuming it is cheaper, then when to buy also makes a difference now, because the lead times are different. Next step comes supply strategy. So this is the one I think is very crucial around. I know this is we have covered in many of the other webinars as well. So supply strategy is, here let me go down straight to this, KRALJIC model. On the one side you have volume of procurement, how much money you are spending. Other side is your supply risk. So when we talk of money, what I'm spending around, is it on the high side? Is it average? Is it low? Similarly, when I look at the supply risk side, my risk is directly proportional to the number of suppliers, eligible suppliers. If I have only one supplier, two suppliers, my risk is the highest. If I've got 4 or 5 suppliers, reliable suppliers, my risk is average. But if I've got tons of suppliers, my risk is low. Same way, when I'm spending more money, my buying power is bigger. In then other case, I'm buying very little expenditures. So this basically shows you can't have one solution for all. You can't have one strategy for all the items or for all the categories around. Where I'm putting more money, naturally I'm the most powerful one. And the ways where it is more risk, these become strategic products. Then you find the leverage products. That means I'm spending a lot, but the risk is not much. I can change the supplier overnight. My leverage product. This is the place where I will try to carry on doing competition. When it comes to strategic, I would like to use collaboration approach. Routine items, low risk, low volumes. My interest would be to automate the process, decentralize it, make some framework agreements, make e-catalog, let people anywhere around straight go online and buy it, office supplies. Even some items, if you're a very big company, buying computer should be a routine item, bottleneck item. In your assembly line, in your supply chain, some item may be bottleneck. Because of the long lead time, potential risk is bigger, and if those items get delayed, the whole chain could get blocked. The chain getting blocked means your money is stopped, your people are idle, so bottleneck item is very important. Just look like any airline companies around, not the airline, the company who make the Airbus and this around, a simple nut and bolt, the cost is very low. But those nuts and bolts could make a big difference. Your plane cannot go out in the manufacturing. This is a bottleneck item. So those bottleneck items you need to plan well in advance. Here you need to see around is the power of the buyer and the supplier. If you are coming into the power of purchasers, obviously you will try to exploit. It's but natural. But if you're looking in the equilibrium, then yes, you can see the color zone. We are seeking equilibrium. Both are equally win-win. But this is the situation where you need to diversify, where supplier is powerful. Not that you are, I mean, basically you want to go with 50-50. You want to have win-win situation. But here, supplier is very powerful. If anytime they ditch you, you could be in trouble. So you need to diversify. You need to draw this type of matrix in your organizations. So this gives you broad defining the sourcing strategies. One side you're looking at the relationship. So the commercial relationship is partner. In one case is managing the risk, other case is leverage, the buying, and the modality of working is cross-function. So you keep in mind, so wherever you are going to strategic items, you need to have a cross-function. And the one which are low cost, low risk, decentralized. Use e-catalog. That's what we talk about. Similarly, where the leverage items, you will try to centralize. So your operational modality, your structure also, organization structure has to follow this approach around. This is a wonderful spectrum of procurement strategies from less difficult items to more difficult items. So this basically goes with difficulties part. So when it's a less difficult, simple items across the shelf, your job is just to do the volume concentration. More the volumes, better pricing, you can negotiate. But it's a difficult item, very complex item. You're making PC, you're getting a motherboard, a complex item. The quality of your product depends on that. It's a difficult item. That's where you will try to build relationship restructuring. So it gives you basically from one end to another end, different spectrums depending on the complexities. Step 5. Now step 5 talks about, it's basically heartland of procurement people. You are all procurement people are very good on this. The problem is in the first 4 steps. When it comes to step 5 and 6, generally I would say procurement people do a wonderful job because they know, okay guys, we've done the homework, we know the supply sources, now let's send RFX, could be RFP, RFQ, get all the details of delivery, specification, service, evaluation criteria, and then try to find the supply. This part normally I would say in most of the company works very well. The problem is with the first 4 steps. Step 6 is also not bad. Again, this is the heartland of all procurement people. This is what they do for day in, day out. So negotiation, selecting, so I don't want to go much into this. All the procurement people know about it. But the next step is again complex. Implementing the recommendation. You want to change the supplier. And the people are already used to that particular product. So naturally there will be resistance to upfront. So those who are winning suppliers, you have to notify them. And if the incumbent is also, you have to explain what changes you are expecting around. Incumbent does not mean that you extended the contract. Possibly you want to make some improvements around based on your past performance. So again, you have to make a communication with the guy. But if it's a new suppliers around, a communication plan within the house with the stakeholder is also important. Internal stakeholders will always find faults. Oh, they were doing very good when they were dealing with the previous one. Now this supplier we are not happy around. So keep in mind, this is the subject of change management. All of you know better than me, any change, people will always find excuses to find, oh, this is not good. This is making our life difficult. I always remember my timing when we didn't have any technology part. Everybody said, oh, we don't have a software around. We spent around $70-80 million to get ERP worldwide. And I was leading it. So when we implemented ERP, then people were confused again. Oh, this is complex. We have to learn a lot. This has this problem. So I think change is about human psychology. They try to resist it. But we could overcome the change resistance by having training, by having regular communication with them on a regular basis. So communicate, communicate, communicate. This is where I will just summarize this summary. Strategic sourcing, when we talk around, now we said based on Peter KRALJIC model, 4 areas around. So keep in mind this is based on 80-20 as well. Draw the line, that means those which are toward the left side, the expenditure of the organization is only 20% in this one. 80% is on the other side, the right side. So your priority should be obviously the bottleneck items. So one side is saving opportunities are very high. Degree of difficulty is not much. Highest priority because I can save money. Then I've got these ideas around complex. Saving opportunities are again high. So you can look around where the saving opportunities come more, they become 1 and 2 irrespective of the degree of difficulties around. But the corner also, there's another one too, you can see in the corner with the low risk and low difficulties and low values. Idea is because they're low values, I agree with you. Maybe covering only 10% of your total budget. But if you can automate them, makes your life easier. You can decentralize them. So they also become your priority. The lowest priority would be the other one, where you got high risk, high difficulties around, low money wise. Those are the bottleneck items. You will say, guys, okay, let me buy in a bulk. Instead of buying for a month, because the cost is low, let me buy so there's no problem to my supply line. Critical success factor, you have to be visible. When you implement such a project around, you need to have a single vision. End user focus has to be there. They have to be involved into this. They should think this change which you're trying to bring is it their own projects around. They should feel proud of this project around. Data integrity. The data is very important. At the end of the day, the whole intelligence which you're trying to make is based on data. If garbage in, garbage out. If your data is wrong, item which should belong to X category is shown in another category, I think your decisions could be wrong. So you need to have a very good coding system, appropriate use of technologies. You need to have a good technology. I'm not saying that everybody has to go for ERP or this. If e-procurement you have, internet-enabled e-procurements, or you have even a wonderful Excel for doing this spend part, but depending on the size of your data, continuous process improvement. Re-engineering of the process has to go on. The world is evolving. Competition is evolving. You can't stick to one approach for lifetime. I think after every 5 years, I look at this way the world has come. We need to look at the skill sets of the people. We need to look at 5 years, what are the new processes we need to bring around. So the change is a must. Change is constant. Before I wrap up, let me say this way. This whole project of strategic sourcing, think strategically. So whenever you're making any decisions, measure the total cost, not the price. So when I say total cost, mean all other components. It's not the acquisition price. It is all other indirect expenses which are going to happen around. Lastly, but not the least, is work as a team. You alone can't do it. It is a teamwork. That means you need to have a cross-functional team. And that cross-functional team has to work on this around. Well, friends, with this, I want to thank you all for joining us in the session on a normal working days. I want to thank you all for the patient hearing. Thanks, everyone.